science, technology, industry, commerce, management, studies, arts, and humanities. We have studied that how the philosophy is related with intellectual language, which is dealing with philosophy. Then what is the role of science and the history of science in developing history, technology, how the technology and this information of history of technology is helpful in studying history. Then we have studied that how the knowledge of the industrial revolution will help in generating the more industrial uh, progress in today's life. Then we have studied about the management studies, arts, and humanities. Moving further, we have studied that how these important branches of the science are some or other way dealing with the history and how they are useful in our day-to-day life. Then moving for the today's topic, we'll start with applied history and present. At our present, in that in we'll study about the heritage management. So I'm starting with this. People often ask about the practical value of history. You might have also think that what is the application of history in our day-to-day life, why we are studying history, because it is the study of past, जो गुजर गया हम उसके बारे में क्यों पढ़ रहे हैं, how it is useful. But the answer to the question about the nature of the applied history is question as well. The visible and invisible relics of past exist in the present. We nurture some kind of curiosity, attraction towards them. As I've already told you that it is the knowledge of the history which will be useful for making our future and present in a good shape. That means if we want to progress in present and future, we should have the knowledge of the past. That's why we should have the history of the knowledge. And there is some relation between the past and present. यानी आज हमको जो करना है हम उसके कहीं ना कहीं उसको present past से जोड़ते हैं. That's why it is very important to study the history. Now applied history and heritage management, that means now for study of all these factors we need to have the good sources, and one of the important sources is material sources. It helps in building our identity. The history of our heritage links us with our origin. That means whatever heritage we have, monuments, sculptures, inscriptions, whatever poems we have bhajan, kirtan, we have already studied all these, that valuable these are the valuable sources of history, and we should have the um, great culture. We have the great culture, and we should have the knowledge about all those things. And in applied history, what you are going to study, you are going to study about the preservation and conservation of heritage management, and it takes accessible to people. Heritage management creates opportunities of employment. और हेरिटेज मैनेजमेंट क्या करता है, हमारी एम्प्लॉयमेंट की अपॉर्चुनिटीज को क्या करता है, एक तरह से improve करता है. It improves our employment opportunity. In brief, applied history can be described as understanding of our present with the help of its history, and finding right direction for the benefits of our future. That means we want to, if we want to progress in our future, it is the applied history or it is the heritage management of the history which helps in bringing all those factors together, and which will leads to the progress in the present as well as in future. Now today I'm starting with management of culture and management of cultural and natural heritage. Now children, when we are talking about the management of culture and natural heritage, there are three important factors. There are three important types. First, A is cultural heritage, then second one is natural heritage, and third one is world heritage. Okay, so today we're dealing with the cultural heritage and natural heritage. Always remember that management of heritage includes three important subsections. First one, cultural heritage. Second was natural heritage, and third one, world heritage. And again, cultural heritage is divided into two parts, that is tangible cultural heritage and intangible cultural heritage. So first we'll deal with the cultural heritage, and in that we'll study with the tangible and intangible cultural heritage. Now what is tangible cultural heritage? This type of cultural heritage includes ancient sites, building, artifacts, manuscripts, sculptures, painting, etc. Now tangible cultural heritage तो अगर हम, if I'll explain in simple language, it is concrete cultural heritage. Concrete means something which you can see, touch and feel. Okay, those things are called as concrete. And and tangible cultural heritage is nothing but concrete evidence of past. That means, and what they are, ancient sites. For example, what will come in ancient sites? Sites of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, Mesopotamian civilization, Egyptian civilization, Greek civilization, Chinese civilization, all it will come in ancient sites, from where we'll found the traces of the ancient civilization. For example, in Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, or in some parts of Chinese, in Mesopotamian. That means if we dig into the past, all the artifacts were found from there. Those are called as ancient sites. जहाँ पे हमको पुराने जमाने की चीजें को मिल, खुदाई के दौरान पुराने जमाने की चीजें मिलती है, जिनको देख के लगता है कि यहाँ पे कभी ना कभी कोई पुरानी सिविलाइजेशन रही होंगी, जो हमको हड़प्पन सिविलाइजेशन में लगता है कि कहीं नहीं तो भी 5000 साल पहले यहाँ पे कोई तो लोग होंगे, जो शहर होंगे, लेकिन फिर वो किसी वजह से क्या हो गया है, खत्म हो गया. So all this will come in ancient sites. Next is buildings. Now in what will comes in buildings? All the old monuments we have Taj Mahal, we have Chand Minar, Bibi ka Maqbara, we have n number of Eiffel Tower. All these are what? All these are buildings, all these are old monuments. You can touch them, you can see them, right? These are concrete evidence of cultural heritage, and they are called as tangible cultural heritage. Artifacts. While excavation, archaeologists discover different types of things, toys, different statues, even wooden artifacts. Then we have the artifacts related to different metals, statues, toys. All these will come in artifacts जो खुदाई के दौरान हमको मिलते हैं. Then manuscripts. There are some on copper plates or on gold plates, and different inscriptions are inscribed, and information about that particular period is written, and those are called as manuscripts, or the books which is related to past. Sculptures. We have already studied about different sculptures which is related with different religion. For example, we studied about the stupa of Sachi. All this will come in sculptures. And next is paintings. For example, paintings of Mona Lisa will come, Last Supper. All these are the paintings which is we have in the from the past, and all these will come in tangible cultural heritage. That means you can touch them, you can see them, and that why that these evidence are concrete evidence, and those are called as cultural, tangible cultural heritage. Opposite to this are intangible. Opposite to that is intangible cultural heritage. Now what will come under the intangible cultural heritage, children? Totally opposite to the tangible cultural heritage. That means which is you cannot see you cannot see them, you cannot touch them. Simply you cannot touch them. Okay, you can only feel them. Those will come under the intangible cultural heritage. That means you cannot have the concrete evidence of those, but you will listen to them, you will you'll be entertained by them, you can listen to them, you can see them, but you cannot touch them. That will come in intangible cultural heritage. And again, these are the few examples of the intangible cultural heritage. As you can see on the screen, there are 6 examples of intangible cultural heritage which is given on the screen. First one is oral tradition and their language. Now whichever oral traditions we are following today, okay, this is started from the past, this is from the ancient time. Okay, whatever rituals we are practicing, whatever festivals we are celebrating, some or other it is the origin of the past. So again this will come in intangible cultural heritage. Our language, Marathi language, Hindi language is not something invented today. It is again the uh, from the past we have practicing it today itself. Then traditional knowledge. There are some traditional knowledge we have from the past. For example, how the humans has been have flourished in particular society. What is how the human has started from the wheel, and now how human is practicing different technology today. And social custom and rituals of celebrating festivals. Social customs, whatever custom we have today, that means how we are performing our marriages, how we are, even in Hindus, how they are performing different rituals. For example, if a child is born, how they are, their birth is celebrated. Okay. And if the person is if person died, how they should be buried. All this is from the past. Social customs, rituals of celebrating festivals. For example, how we are celebrating Diwali today, it is not something which is invented in 2019 or 2018. It is from the past. ये बहुत पहले इन्वेंट हुआ है. इससे पहले से जो हम ये जो हम जो कस्टम्स को फॉलो करें, देयर इज some story. हम उस जो है ये प्रथा है जो हम how we are celebrating the Ram Navami, how we are celebrating our different Raksha Bandhan. So all these are something which is related with our religion, and which is not something which is even invented 1 or 2 years back. It is way back. It is very ancient, right? So all this will come in intangible cultural heritage, religion, or ye social customs and festivals which you cannot touch them, right? You cannot touch festival, but you can celebrate them. You cannot touch oral tradition and their language. You can touch the language, right? But you can speak that particular language. That's why they are called as intangible cultural heritage, which is also called as abstract cultural heritage. That means we cannot touch them. They are invisible, but still they are existing. The style of performing arts, different arts. For example, Bharatnatyam, Kuchipudi. Then we have the different Bhangra. All these are very traditional and they have their own history. That's why they will also come under the intangible cultural heritage. You cannot touch Bhangra, but you can perform Bhangra. Similarly, you cannot touch Bharatnatyam, right? But similarly, you can touch different artifacts. That's why they are called as concrete cultural heritage. But here, you cannot touch Bharatnatyam. But still, they are performing. They can be performed by different people. That's why they are called as performing arts. Again, they will come in intangible cultural heritage. Then certain traditional skills, for example, yoga, right? Surya सूर्य देव की जो पूजा होती है, सूर्य नमस्कार, all this will come in traditional performing arts. They are performing skills, or how we are perform. For example, in Muslims they perform namaz, right? So that is something which is very traditional in skill. We have performing the namaz from the ancient times until today. We are doing the same kind of traditional skills, and that will come under the something which is very traditional from the olden times we are doing today. Okay, then communities. For example, a particular person is from the particular caste or have the particular surname. Even your surname is also something which you got from the your history. आपके दादा का होगा, उनके परदादा का होगा, उनके पहले उनके पिताजी का होगा, है ना? And then you got the your surname. For example, whatever surname, खान surname में तो बहुत पहले से हमारे जनरेशन से वो आता है, तब हमको जाके वो मिलता है, राइट? यादव है, चौहान है, राइट? यू हम बोलते ना आप लोग चौहान है, हम पहले ये काम करते थे. So again, Khan surname को हम छू नहीं सकते, but we can still have the feeling of that particular surname, right? चौहान को हम छू नहीं सकते, यादव को हम छू नहीं सकते, लेकिन इसीलिए वो क्या कहते हैं, abstract होते हैं ये cultural heritage, but they are still with us. So this is the difference between tangible cultural heritage and intangible cultural heritage. Hope children, आपको ये concept clear हुआ होगा tangible cultural heritage का और intangible cultural heritage का. So ये आएगा कल्चरल हेरिटेज में. अभी सेकंड टाइप हम जा रहे हैं मैनेजमेंट ऑफ कल्चर की. दैट इज नेचुरल हेरिटेज चिल्ड्रन. नाउ सेकंड टाइप ऑफ मैनेजमेंट ऑफ कल्चर में आएगा, सेकंड टाइप ऑफ हेरिटेज में आएगा नेचुरल हेरिटेज. पहली हो गई कल्चरल हेरिटेज, सेकंड विल कम एज अ नेचुरल हेरिटेज. नाउ चिल्ड्रन, in natural heritage, natural is something which is related with, as you can see on the screen also, something which is related with our nature. हमारे नेचर से जो हमको मिलती है, that is called as natural heritage. The concept of natural heritage gives importance to the thought of biodiversity. It includes the following things: fauna, flora, ecology, and demographic characteristic, which is crucial for sustaining the flora and fauna of a particular region. Flora, plants, fauna, animals, all this will come in natural heritage. UNESCO, the global organization, had announced some directive with the objective of promoting the cultural and natural heritage. On the basis of those directive, list of sites and traditions are declared as heritage, world heritage. Okay, now for natural heritage is something which is very ancient, जो पहले जमाने से है, and it is still the same. Okay, जो पुराने जमाने से थे लेकिन उसकी अभी भी उसकी जो है शेप क्या हो गई है, बिल्कुल भी चेंज नहीं हुए हैं. So that will come under the natural heritage. Children, one of the important thing, I want to give you the examples of some intangible. I want to give you the example of some intangible, natural, intangible cultural heritage का मैं आपको कुछ examples देना चाहती हूँ children यहाँ पर. In that, the first one is Kutiyattam, Malayalam theatre. Now, theatre is something which you cannot. Theatre is very performing art. It will come in performing art. It is a traditional performing art from the state of Kerala, India. It is a combination of ancient Sanskrit theatre with the elements of Kuttu, an ancient performing arts from the Sangam era. Sangam era is one of the ancient civil era, we can say ancient, we can say the culture. Very Sangam is something very traditional from the South Indian. It is officially recognized by UNESCO as a masterpiece of the oral and intangible heritage of humanity. Then next one is Ram Leela, the tradition of Vedic chanting. The Ram Leela festivals were declared by UNESCO as one of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity in 2008. Ram Leela is particularly children notable in historically important of Hindu cities of Ayodhya, Varanasi, Vrindavan, Almora, Satna, and Madhubani, cities in Uttar Pradesh. Now, what it is intangible. Now, Vedic chanting, उसके जो मंत्र है हम छू नहीं सकते, but we can read them. That's why they are intangible cultural है, and they are very ancient. बहुत पुराने सदियों से perform होते हैं. That's why UNESCO जो है United Nation Organization की one of the important branch है, which is work for the community affairs. So they have declared those particular Vedic chanting or Ram Leela as their intangible cultural heritage. Now, further information about these Ram Leela, the epic and its dramatic play migrated into Southeast Asia in the first millennium century. See how old it is. And Ramayana based Ram Leela is a part of performance art culture of Indonesia, particularly the Hindu city of Bali, Myanmar, Cambodia, and Thailand. At that time, all these were in Indian subcontinent. Okay, and Ram Leela, that means now these are the plays which you can now see on the screens also. But and that's why they are very ancient, they are very old. That's why UNESCO has declared them as the intangible cultural heritage. In the 19th and 20th century, with the movement of Indian diaspora in European colonies and indigenous suburbs, the cultural celebration of Ram Leela is now found in many parts of the world, such as Caribbean, Mauritius, Africa, Fiji, Malaysia, and Singapore. It is also found in United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, Australia, and New Zealand. Now, children, as you can see here, that not only in India, it is something. Hinduism is something which is the religion is the mostly Hindus resides here in India. Okay, and this is the country which is the origination of Hinduism. But still, see the popularity of this Ram Leela or the story of Ramayana and Mahabharata, which is the stage play of these particular story is performed in every corner of the world, from the European countries to the Southeast Asian countries to the even in different parts of the New Zealand and in Australia. Okay, in these continent also these kinds of stories have been performed as a theoretical art. So that's why UNESCO has declared this particular Ram Leela as a cultural heritage, and that too in the intangible faculty. Then hope children कि आप intangible को relate कर पा रहे होंगे in all this with performing dance. Now performed as a celebration is an integral part of Kale Bela culture. Their dance and songs are a matter of pride and a maker of identity for the Kalabilas, as they represent the creative adoption of the community, snake charmers to changing socio-economic conditions and their own role in rural Rajasthani society. Our Rajasthani folk dance Kalabila is very famous in the community, and the dances are women in following black skirts who dance and swirl. Now you might have also seen the how the Rajasthani dance is very traditional, and the steps are also very typical. So again, this is one of the cultural heritage, and that too in intangible, because we cannot dance is something which we cannot touch, but we can perform that particular thing. Okay, now the upper body cloth is called, and the more in detailed about these particular dance is given here. The upper body cloth is called angarakhi and is a piece of clothes worn on head known as orni. Similarly, the lower body cloth is called lehenga, and all these clothes are mixed in red and black hose and embroidered in such a way that when these dancers perform, their clothes present a combination of colors soothing to eyes as well as to the atmosphere. Now typical work is there on their particular clothes or on their particular costumes, and when they perform it looks very nice, it looks very natural. Even the garba and all the ghumar is very famous dance performance from the Rajasthan. So you can relate that how these are very cultural and these are very traditional, which we perform today also. Next is again one of the intangible cultural art from the cultural heritage is Buddhist chanting of Ladakh. This recreation of scared Buddhist text in the Trans-Himalayan Ladakh region, Jammu and Kashmir, India. Now, whatever the Gautam Buddha has taught in the valley of Jammu and Kashmir, all those performance has been recreated, and they are all recitation of the Buddhist chants were there and the text were there, and that is also one of the important intangible cultural heritage which is declared by UNESCO. In the monasteries and villages of Ladakh region, Buddhist lamas, priests, chants, scared text representing the spirit, philosophy, and teaching of the Buddha. Two forms of Buddhism are practiced in Ladakh, Mahayana and Vajrayana. And there are four major sects, namely Nagarima, Kagyu, Shakya, and Geluk. Each sect has a several forms of chanting, practicing during life cycle rituals, and on important days in the Buddhism and agrarian calendars, chanting is undertaken for the spiritual and moral well-being. So again, this is one of the important cultural heritage which is followed from the ancient times, and today UNESCO has declared them. And this particular um, Buddhist text has been declared as in 2012. They have declared, UNESCO has declared them as a intangible cultural heritage. Then yes, again very famous yoga. Okay, in 2016, yoga is declared as one of the important cultural heritage, which is performed from the ancient time till today. Now, as you all know, then 21st June is World Yoga Day. 21st December is one of the 21st, sorry, 21st June is world year most long day, and that's why that particular day is declared as Yoga Day. Now, inscribed in 2016 on the representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. The philosophy behind the ancient Indian practice of yoga has influenced various aspects of how society in India functions, whether it could be relations such as health and medicine, or education and the arts, based on unifying the minds with the body and soul to follow, allow for greater mental, spiritual, and physical well-being, and the values of yoga from a major part of community ethos. As you all know, children, yoga is very beneficial for our health and well-being. It is not only for our physical health, but for our mental health, for our spiritual health. It is very essential. um, Yoga is something which is followed in your schools also. So yoga is very traditional. It is not something which is invented a day or the day before yesterday or years back. It is very ancient, formed from the Vedic time today till today also. And now the yoga is performed. There are different yoga classes, and there is World Yoga Day also. So again, UNESCO has declared this particular performing skill. This will come under the skill yoga as their uh, uh, natural as a cultural heritage. Traditionally, yoga was transmitted using the Guru Shivya model, master people with yoga gurus as the main custodian of the associate knowledge and skills. Nowadays, yoga ashrams or hermitage provides enthusiasts with additional opportunities to learn about the traditional practices as well as schools, universities, community centers, and social media. Now you can learn yoga in your schools, universities में भी अभी yoga जो है as a subject introduced हो रहा है. And then again on social media there are different YouTube channels which offer different yoga classes. You can just see them and you can perform yoga at your home also. So again, yoga is one of our important cultural heritage. Now moving further, natural heritage, children. Natural, as I have told you, natural is something which is related with animal, plants, something epography. इतना अच्छा उसका पूरा environment है. That's why they have been declared by. So there are different sites which are declared by UNESCO as a natural heritage sites, which we'll see further. Okay, now these are some important world natural heritage sites, which now first one is in the year declared by 19. These are the sites from India only. Okay, in the to begin with, in 1985, Kozhiranga National Park. Then again in 1985, Keola Dev National Park. In the year 1985, Manas Wildlife Sanctuary. 1987, Sundarbans National Park. 1988, Nanda Devi Valley. Then in 2005, National Park Western Ghats, WAF National Park. Then 2005, Western Ghats has been declared as the World Natural Heritage Sites. Then in 2014, Great Himalayan National Park Conservation Area. So all these are sites which has been uh, declared by UNESCO as a World Natural Heritage Site. That means their topography, their flora, fauna, animals, plants, all those are very rich in their natural heritage and they are very ancient. पुराने जमानों से वहाँ पे जो है जंगली जानवर रह रहे हैं, वहाँ पे परिंदे रह रहे हैं, वहाँ पे जो उनका जो साइट है पर्टिकुलर फिजिकल, वहाँ की जो टोपोग्राफी है वो चेंज नहीं हुआ. दैट्स व्हाई यूनेस्को हैज डिक्लेयर्ड देम एज देयर नेचुरल हेरिटेज साइट्स. Now from these particular list we are going to see some few examples. Now first one is Kaziranga National Park. It is in Assam, children. As you can see in the picture, it is very rich in forest. It's a national park in the Golghat and Nagaon district in the state of Assam. It is in the state of Assam. In 1954, the government of Assam passed the Assam Bill, which imposed heavy penalties for rhino poaching. 14 years later, in 1968, the state government passed the Assam National Park Act of 1968, declaring Kaziranga as designated national park. Now, children, there are some people who hunt the animals, right? Now, hunting of the animal is illegal, but still, anybody can say that we can hunt animal. That's when government of India. This is for the safety of the animals also and for the safety of the environment also. Now the government has started declaring that particular forest or that particular national park as their own property. अब जब गवर्नमेंट अपनी खुद की वो प्रॉपर्टी डिक्लेयर कर देती है उस वक्त क्या हो जाता है, उनके लॉज वहां पे इम्पोज हो जाते हैं एंड एट द टाइम nobody is allowed to hunt in that particular area, and if anybody do so that is illegal and government can take the action, right? So that's why government introduce different uh, announce different national parks or forests as their own property. Okay, now for example particular forest is there which is very rich in their flora and fauna as a part of diversity. It is very good, very beautiful, but the people is hunting over there. So what the government will do, government will declare that particular forest as their own national park. Okay, and that's why government will take the charge of that particular forest. They will look after that particular forest and the property will be handled by the government. So here also Kaziranga National Park, which is declared by government of Assam as their own park. The area is 430 kilometers, 1000 square kilometer. Park is in February 1974. In 1985, Kaziranga was declared a World Heritage Site by UNESCO for the unique natural environment. The environment of that particular park is very unique, and that's why the UNESCO has declared that particular park as their World Natural Heritage Site. Then the second park is the Manas National Park, was declared a sanctuary on 1st October 1928 with an area of 360 kilometers. Manas Bioreserve was created in 1973. Prior to the declaration of the sanctuary, it was a reserve forest called Manas RF and North Kamrup. It was used by the Cooch Behar royal family and Raja of Gauripur as a hunting reserve. In 1951 and 1955, the area was increased to 391 kilometers. It was declared a World Heritage Site in December 1985 by UNESCO. Further, Thatima, Arif, the Kokilabari, Arif, and the Panibari were added in the year 1990 from the Manas National Park. Now, again, the area has been added in that particular national park. In 1992, UNESCO declared it as a World Heritage Site in danger to do the heavy poaching and terrorist activities. Again, इसको क्यों declare किया? That's why because there are different people who are hunting over there. That's why they have declared this as the UNESCO site. On 25 February 2008, the area was increased to 950 kilometers. On 21st June 2008, it was removed from the list of World Heritage Sites in danger and was commenced for its efforts in preservation. Now again, it is in the safe hands. उन्होंने पहले declare किया कि it was very dangerous site because उस पे बहुत ज़्यादा hunting हो रही है और terrorist activities भी हो रही है, but later it was declared as a safe site. Now, Western Ghats, you might have studied about the Western Ghat in your geography subject also. The Western Ghat, also the Sayadri, the mountain of patience, is a mountain range that covers an area of 1,60,000 kilometers, square kilometers, in a stretch of 1,600 kilometers, parallel to the western coast of the Indian peninsula, traversing the state of Tamil Nadu. How many states they have covered? Western Ghats. See here: Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, Goa, Maharashtra, and Gujarat. All this area, particular area, has been covered by all these 5 states. It is UNESCO World Heritage Site and it is one of the 8 hotspots of biological diversity. Different kinds of animals, plants, species, trees are found, has been found here, and that's why they have been declared by the World Heritage Site. It is sometimes called the Great Escarpment of India. It contains a very large proportion of country's flora and fauna. Many plants, animals, different kinds of fruits has been discovered are here. Many of which are only found in India and nowhere else in the world. See why they are declared as heritage, because all these things are only found in India and that will not be found somewhere in the world. That's why they are declared as World Heritage Site. Now, according to UNESCO, the Western Ghats are older than the Himalayas. Now, UNESCO is something which is of the opinion that it is older than Himalayas. Okay. Now, that's why they are called as, they were declared as the World Heritage Site. Now, Sundarban National Park. Sundarban National Park, Ganga Plains, one of the, when we will study about the Ganga Plains in geography subject, children, you will study about the Sundarban National Park, one of the largest delta region of India. The land is very fertile over here. That's why Sundarban is very famous. And the park which is just next to that particular park is also one of the important World Heritage, world most famous natural heritage site. Okay, now the Sundarban National Park is a national park tiger reserve. Mainly here the tigers are found, and biosphere reserve in the West Bengal. It is in the state of West Bengal, India. It is part of the Sundarban on the Ganga Delta. As I have told you that Sundarban is very famous as it covers the Ganga Delta, and the land here is very fertile land. And adjacent to the Sundarban Reserve Forest in Bangladesh, it also adjusts uh, something which is connected to Bangladesh. The delta is densely covered by mangroves forest and is one of the largest reserve of Bengal tiger, as I have told you. Now, Bengal tiger is very famous. It is also home to variety of bird and reptile and invertebrate species, including the saltwater crocodile. The present Sundarban National Park was declared as a core area of Sundarban Tiger Reserve in 1973 and a wildlife sanctuary in 1977. On 4th May 1984, it was declared a national park. Now, children, that particular again here there is there is many Bengal tiger has been found. That's why to save them those tigers, because again there are people those who hunt tigers also. So to make them safe, again that particular site has been declared as World Heritage Site, and in that too in the Natural Heritage Faculty. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site inscribed in 1987. Now, as you can see on the picture, also the picture of tiger on the map of India where it is actually situated. I have posted the picture here, and it has been designated as Ramsar site since 2019. It is considered as a World Network of Biosphere Reserves, Man and Biosphere Reserve from 1989. That means where the man and there is a man and the abundance of forest. That's why they are called as biospheres. Reserves from the year 1989. Now, children, with this I'm ending my session here. As you can see here on the screen, evaluation part. Now complete the following concept chart, cultural heritage. Now what you have to write here, you have to write the tangible cultural heritage and intangible cultural heritage, what will come under these. Then name some natural heritage sites mentioned by the UNESCO, that you will have to write. And the last one, collect more information on yoga and its benefits. And this is you will write in your own language. And you can surely take the help of internet also. From that also you can collect the information. I hope, children, you might understood that today's part of lesson. Okay, thanks for joining the lecture. Good day.